That night, as I placed my hair in a ponytail and dressed in my blue scrubs, I had no idea how much my life was about to change. I was excited because I had just booked a trip to Chicago to meet my nurse practitioner classmates. The year was 2014, and I was thrilled to be finishing my nurse practitioner degree. As my shift wound down, I had one last admission. It only took 3 seconds for the patient to launch a vicious assault. That's how I went from being a nurse to becoming a patient. And now, I am another workplace violence statistic. My name is Lee Powers. I'm a registered nurse, and this is my Oxford Talk. Nurses like me are subjected to assault more frequently than almost any other profession. Approximately 57 nurses will be assaulted today in the United States. That's about 21,000 nurses per year. Most attackers are patients. I'll never forget the police officer's response when I reported the assault. Well, what did you expect? After the assault, I was encouraged to stay silent about the incident. And when my injuries proved too severe for me to return to work within 3 months, I was fired for the very first time in my career. After a series of medical treatments that were going nowhere, I find myself in need of critical care. Several leading specialists recommend a medically induced coma. I am now in the intensive care unit on a ventilator, breathing with the help of a machine. My eyes are taped shut with patches, and my arms are strapped down. As a nurse, I thought I knew what my patients were going through, but I was entirely unprepared for the stark reality of how it feels to be lying in the ICU bed myself. Very quickly, I realized I didn't know what I didn't know, and the medical staff doesn't know either. They don't know I can hear them. They have no idea. They are speaking in a foreign language, and I lay there terrified. Have I been kidnapped? Are my organs going to be harvested? I can hear, feel, and smell everything. I am gripped by fear. I am aware, but invisible. I am a body in a bed, not a person. My medically planned coma that is intended to last for 5 days turns into 7, 14, then 21 days. I look like I am sleeping, but I am not. I have a fever of 105 degrees, sepsis, a collapsed lung, and I am close to death. I have so much terror in every cell of my body, I think the fear alone will kill me. I feel like I have 2 choices. On one hand, it feels like it will be easier just to drift away. I'm terrified every moment of every hour of every day. I think it may be better just to let go. On the other hand, the enormity and intensity of what I'm learning in that bed pulls me in another direction. In my nurse's mind, I vow that if I survive, I will remember everything. While my classmates are in Chicago, I am in the ICU bed. After 21 days, I finally awaken. I lose my career and identity. For a very long time, I cannot say the word nurse practitioner without bursting into tears. I can't imagine being this close to graduation and not being able to finish my degree. When I'm finally wheeled out of the hospital, a shell of my former self, my independence has vanished, and I am now the one requiring medical help and assistance. Bills are piling up in large stacks. Medical bills drain every dollar I have, and without a paycheck, all economic stability in the life I know is gone. I lose my home, my partner, my savings, and my ability to support myself. In my early 50s, I am living in assisted living for several years, alongside other residents in their 80s and 90s. I have to relearn how to walk, talk, and care for myself. I wake up every night for the next 7 years screaming. My only solace is found when Mr. Nelson Mandela, my best friend, companion, and now my service dog, enters my life. As I continue to struggle to recover once again, I realize I didn't know what I didn't know. And what I didn't know is that I have a condition called post-intensive care syndrome, or PICS. PICS is a collection of health challenges that frequently occurs after serious illness or injury, and it often happens in survivors of the ICU. The three main components of PICS include new or worsening physical, cognitive, and mental health symptoms. Physically, symptoms may include fatigue, weakness, difficulty with balance, and reduced stamina. Cognitively, a person with PICS may experience brain fog, difficulty finding words, speech challenges, and memory problems. Mental health symptoms often involve PTSD, anxiety, or depression. When I left the hospital, there were no discussions about PICS, so I thought I was the only one experiencing these myriad symptoms as a result of my ICU stay. Most patients, their families, and healthcare professionals are unfamiliar with post-intensive care syndrome, yet PICS is much more common than people realize. To provide some perspective, in the United States alone, it is estimated that 5.7 million patients per year are admitted to an intensive care unit. If we look at these numbers from 2020 until the end of 2025, numbers could exceed 28.5 million patients with an ICU admission. This is in the U.S. alone. More than 50% of ICU survivors experience some form of PICS. This equates to tens of millions of patients with PICS, and most don't even know it. Every recognized health problem has an official label known as an ICD code, which is part of the International Classification of Diseases. Post-intensive care syndrome doesn't have this code, so it is invisible to the healthcare industry. That can mean no diagnosis, no treatment, no insurance coverage, and no support. So, how do we start to heal? How do we help PICS patients? We start by raising awareness and advocating for better understanding and recognition of PICS. Let's also revisit the three main components of PICS: the physical, the cognitive, and the mental health symptoms. Physically, for me, most of my muscle mass was gone after the ICU. I didn't have the strength to hold the shower head attachment, even when sitting on a shower chair. I required complete assistance with activities of daily living, including ambulation and bathing. Even basic movements can feel like climbing up a mountain. But movement is medicine. Rehabilitation must start early. Small movements are helpful, even if it's just sitting up, even if it's just holding a spoon. These small steps remind your body that it is still capable. So celebrate every step you take towards recovery. Cognitively, some patients struggle with brain fog, memory loss, or challenges staying focused. Information that you have gathered and stored in your brain for decades is gone. You may grapple with the simplest of mental tasks, forming a complete sentence, using a phone or a television remote, or remembering how the hot and cold faucet works in the shower. It is terrifying because you know what you knew and were capable of before your critical illness. And you consciously or unconsciously begin to isolate. But just like the body, the brain can be retrained. The brain is capable of forming new neural pathways and connections, a process known as neuroplasticity. There are many tools available to recreate these neural connections. For example, crossword puzzles, music, meditation, and other emerging tools currently in development. The mental and emotional health symptoms of PICS are often the most challenging because they are invisible. You look okay, so it's assumed you are okay. There are no lab tests or bandages for nightmares, no crutches for panic attacks, no wheelchair for grief. People don't see the trauma. They don't see the panic that sneaks in when a sound reminds you of the ICU. But it is very real. Through support groups, I found the validation I desperately needed. My symptoms were real, they had a name, and I wasn't alone. Before that, I never knew that other people had similar experiences in the intensive care unit. Talking about it, breaking the silence, and overcoming isolation helped me feel whole again. As a vital part of the healing process, we can screen for post-intensive care syndrome, provide rehabilitation and support, and implement a new innovative framework called ICU I Care, a PICS recovery resource for providers, patients, and their families. If you've survived the ICU, a critical illness, a workplace assault, or the lasting effects of COVID-19 from the pandemic, you may be living with post-intensive care syndrome. If you are a friend or family member of someone who has experienced medical trauma, you are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not broken. Healing is hard. It's slow, and often it feels impossible. But it's not, because you don't have to do it alone. This experience taught me something I wish no one had to learn. Being a nurse doesn't protect you from being broken. Being strong doesn't mean staying silent. And being a survivor doesn't mean you're finished healing. Today, I speak for those who can't yet find the words, for healthcare workers who were hurt on the job, for patients who look like they're sleeping but are screaming on the inside, for those still in the thick of it, and for the girl in blue scrubs with the ponytail who had no idea what was ahead. Because now I know. I know what it's like to lose everything, to start from zero, to have nothing but pain, silence, and a dream for something better. But I also know what it's like to find purpose again, to rebuild breath by breath, step by step. And I know this: survival is not the end of the story. It's the beginning. Let's stop discharging patients into silence. Let's start talking about PICS, recognize it when it occurs, and provide resources and support to patients following critical illness. Let's create a new beginning for the tens of millions with PICS. Let's start today, and let's do it together.